Put right. Do not beat up your beginners, okay? You need your beginners to keep coming back to make your team stronger, all right? Arm wrestling's weird in the fact that it's an individual sport, but it takes a whole effing team to make you, the individual, so good. And if your beginners stop showing up, all of a sudden you got nobody to train with, okay? Stop ripping open your beginners, okay? And we'll talk about training ladies later. But when it comes to weight training and outside table time, I train women exactly the same way I train men, and I train lightweights the same way I train heavyweights, except for the fact if you have to cut weight, we have to adjust that training a little bit, because if you don't have to cut weight, you've got a lot of extra time to build muscle mass and work capacity, and you can get that volume. But if you have to cut weight, you don't want to add a whole bunch of weight to your chest or your legs, which aren't helping you win arm wrestling matches, okay? So, elbow pain. It comes from the small tears in your tendons, right? And there's very few exercises that train your tendons, all right? Most exercises, and most of us, there's all kinds of information about bodybuilding out there, so most of us, when we start arm wrestling, we adapt some kind of bodybuilding program to it. And arm wrestling, more than any other sport, even more so than strongman competition, we're constantly inventing exercises and shit. The bad part of that is there's 10,000 people out there with arm wrestling exercises. It's hard to determine which one you want to do. The good part is, out of 10,000 exercises, a bunch of them are very good ones, okay? But to actually strengthen the tendons, you have to load the muscle very quickly, quicker than the muscle can react. So that's usually a plyometric stuff. So the medicine ball talk, throwing stuff, that kind of stuff. Bands help train your tendons quite a bit. But the best for arm wrestling that I found was actually developed by a power lifter for increasing the tendons in his bench pressing, and that was J.M. Blakely. And he's got a video out there on YouTube called the J.M. Press. Those will fix your elbow pain. Okay, I started arm wrestling in 2000. Arm wrestling's been popular in America for decades before that, and nobody's ever gotten the key to that elbow pain. Learn the JM press, all right? And if you don't, can we pull that bench out a second? You know how to do the JM presses, right, Paul? Yep. Can you demonstrate it?
Not right now.
All right. Okay, who knows?
What?
You can do a JM press?
I think so.
All right. Stephanie can.
Sounds good.
Let's just do an empty bar. Yeah. Like right here. Oh, can you put your head at the other end?
Yeah.
What this does,
I hope I do it right.
you do the 45-pound bar?
Yeah.
Okay, so
take it here.
it's a cross between a skull crusher and then like a narrow grip. So what she'll do is she'll come halfway down into her press, then she'll roll her wrist back and bring the bar down to about her neck. Down to her neck. Alright? She stops when her upper arm and her forearm stop right there. So the more, alright? So what you're doing is you're putting all that stress right into that. Then she presses it back up.
Do I go back up like this?
You just press it back up, yep. But come bring it back down here slower. Roll your wrist back. Okay. Yeah. Then the other thing is you false grip it. So you put the thumb on the same side of the bar as your fingers. You get a little bit more of that wrist roll back. So bring it down to your neck. Yeah. And then up. Okay. These strengthen the tendons, but it will rehab your tendons. It will make that beginning arm wrestling pain go away.
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Does that work with dumbbells too?
No, it does not. And we're going to get to text me, message me anytime you want, okay? I answer all the questions. But I get people who say, dude. They don't say dude. They say, it's almost embarrassing. They go, sir or champ, I follow your training, I do all your advice, and then they proceed to tell me all the stuff they do that I've never said. One guy said, I'm doing the JM presses with dumbbells just like you said. I never said you could do it with dumbbell. The problem with a dumbbell is it doesn't control it. It has to be done with a barbell, right? But bring that down, and it's the stretch. Now, the JM press will push up your bench quite a bit. I am not a believer that bench pressing is all that important for arm wrestling. But that is a tendon building machine. Yes, sir.
Have you tried to do a modified version of it, kind of with push-ups or something like that?
I have not, but Marcio Barbosa says he does not have a bench. So he was going to try to do them on the floor. You can, if you lay flat on a floor, because the bar doesn't, your elbows don't come below your back. So you might be able to do them on a floor, right? I would think the problem with doing it on a push-up is you don't get to roll your wrist back, which throws a little extra stress into it, you know?
You mean back as in this back or this back?
This back.
Okay, 'cause she was doing them this way, and I just want to make sure that they're
Like this?
Oh. Well, why don't you come up here? Everybody, you know what? Everybody should come up here and try this.
While we were transitioning here. Close is better than.
Start here, and we're going to talk about grip in a second. Start here. Come down just a little bit with your elbows. Now roll your wrists down to your neck. And stop. Stop.
Why is his hands so close
Now
together,
press
though?
up.
The wrist go flat again, so
Yep.
it's like.
Now roll them again. Yep.
I'm going flat out. I didn't need.
Yep. And you stop. The whole trick is to stop when your forearm and your biceps hit. All right. Because now you're stretching all of these and it's pushing down.
What do you think of his grip so close together?
We're going to talk about grip in a second. J.M. Blakely, the power lifters all do this, and they all do their normal bench press grip. Okay?
Thanks for coming, man.
But I'm going to talk about powerlifting a lot. I don't know shit about powerlifting. All right. What I did was I read a whole bunch of stuff on a powerlifting website, the Westside Barbell, and adapted it to arm wrestling. So I can speak intelligently about powerlifting to people who don't powerlift, but I can't speak intelligently about powerlifting to powerlifters. Okay? But what I do know is when you are powerlifting, when you bench, it's the same grip and it's the same plane of motion every single time. Arm wrestling, we don't get that, right? If I grab you, you're going to push me this way, and I'm going to pull you, then you're going to pull me something differently. So I don't have the ability, and the bench press would be sweet if arm wrestling was that same train of motion every time. But then it would be weightlifting, it wouldn't be arm wrestling. So what I'm going to do is most powerlifting movements, I don't care if they talk and gab all the time. If these guys don't care, I don't care. All right. But what I'm going to say is, you need to train all that different angles because you're going to arm wrestle taller people, shorter people, fast people, short people. So we're going to take this JM press, right, which they do with their normal legal grip, and we're going to do close grip, medium grip, wide grip, and we're going to superset them. Okay, we're going to do a set. They're going to do a set, and we're going to do a set, and you're going to find out one of those grips is stronger than the other grip. Then that's the grip we're going to dump extra volume on. We're going to keep pushing it because we got to have the ability, even though we're always going sideways, okay, we're always headed towards this point, but the force we have to apply is sometimes beyond that because they're pushing us, and sometimes we're pulling it because they're pulling us, but we're still trying to hit that same spot. So you got to train all angles of your arm. You got to have way more muscle development and coordination development than what a bench presser does, or even somebody who's just a professional curler, because that bar is going up at the same plane every time. We don't have that ability. And that ability to be strong, we all know people who are just wicked freaking freaks in their one move. Kenny Hughes from California is one of them. Corey Miller is another. They hit that groove and they're wicked fast. You pull them out of it a little bit, and all of a sudden they become mortal. But we all know those country boys who just seem strong no matter where you put them, right? They're like a rusty bolt no matter where you're pulling on them. That's what we got to develop. We got to develop that ability to be strong on the whole aspect of those angles. Yes, sir.
How many times a week do you hit the JM presses
I do them every time I train my arms, and I train arm wrestling specific stuff 3 days a week.
Okay.
In the mornings, it's all full range movement stuff. So it's a max. We're gonna talk about max day, speed day, volume day. Evenings are isometrics or plyometrics, but I do my JM presses at the end of all of what would normally be termed like side pressure training, even though it's mostly back pressure stuff.
Okay.
So all of my top roll hooking days. So there's a maximum effort day, a speed day, and a volume day. I end all of it with JM presses.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your rep range on it?
I'm still working that out. Okay. I started with 15. I went down to 8. I'm back up to about 25 now. I'm working through an elbow thing on my left. My left elbow hurts, and the super heavy days, when I was doing 8 reps, it was a weight that I could only do 4 times, and then I slowly built up to 8. But I'm not sure it's actually taking care of this left elbow anymore. So now I'm doing like, I dropped all the weight off, and now I'm doing like sets of 25. So it's not a science. You got to pick and choose where it's at. Now I've seen powerlifters do 315 for sets of 5, and I've seen them do like sets of 100. So
Now, do you pause when you do it, or do you just rep? Do you just try to get
the weight's high enough that I can't. The weight's high enough. I'm not blasting it out. For me, the weight's high enough that it's an effort.
Okay.
Whether it's 25 or whether it's 8, you know, it's heavy enough that it's controlled.
How many? So you go heavy? You shoot to get heavy lifts with those?
I try to hit heavy all the time, mostly to save time.
Okay.
Because to me, I'd rather do 3 sets of 8 rather than 3 sets of 20, just because, you know, I've only got about 90 minutes to be in the gym. You know, 30 minutes of that is warming up. You got to get your workout. You got to get the hell out. I know there are people who preach they're in the gym 3 and 4 hours at a day. There's some very accomplished people who do shit like that, but to me that just fucking nuts, man. I cannot imagine spending 3 hours in a gym lifting weights. I can't think of anything I could do for 3 hours. It'd be just as good at the end of 3 hours as I was at the front end, you know? So, I mean, I hit a max effort in about 8 or 9 sets. I have no idea what someone would do for 4 hours.
So is that like, what, 20 minutes? 25 minutes?
No, because I might have 7 or 8 minutes between sets.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Probably get more, it's probably more effective because that little extra rest.
There's different theories. I'm telling you my theory and my strategy, and other people will tell you other stuff. Okay? So yeah, to me, an hour in the gym, but since I get up at 4 o'clock, it takes me 30 minutes or so to get rolling. If I trained when I train after work, you know, I can drink coffee on the way home. I can go down there and I could be lifting heavy almost immediately because I'm warmed up and stuff. So my evening work, yeah. I always train 7. I always get at least 7 workouts in a week. It's usually somewhere between 10 and 14 on how many evening workouts I do. Okay, the last couple of months I'm training about 10 times a week now, and 5 of them are for arm wrestling, and the other ones are since I'm obviously a super heavyweight, I'm putting on mass, so now I'm doing squatting and benching, you know? To put the fear of Todd and all those other people. You know?
So if you know you got a tournament, do you train more or less when it comes time for that tournament? Do you slow down or do you keep it the same?
I speed up, and I've changed. All right, I've never been a 2 or 3 week off before a tournament guy. I've always been a 3 or 4 day off. Because usually if there's a tournament and if you got to cut weight, usually cutting weight for me is a 10-day process. So I got almost 10 days where I don't do any training. But in the super heavyweight class, I might, between travel, weigh-in, getting there and stuff, there's 3 or 4 days that I don't train before the tournament starts anyways. That's about all I do. I've been toying with the idea of, instead of tapering down like the endurance athletes do, of actually ramping it up. I almost wondered if it would be better to, for instance, let's just say barbell curls. Let's say my max barbell curl is 100 pounds. I've often wondered was, if I got a tournament on Saturday, should I not try to do like 120 pounds or something, you know, as my last workout? Really stress it, and then I got the 4 days where I'm really not doing anything, and I'm eating and I'm sleeping well, and you know, so I feel, you know, because going into a tournament, the mental games screw with you, right? Because you've been training, it's the work you did months ago that determines how you're going to do in that tournament. And the last thing you want to do is be driving to a tournament going, wow, wish I would have worked harder, wish I would have tried my speed, wish I would have worked on this grip, wish I wouldn't have listened to what Travis said, and wish I would. So training really hard does clear a lot of that stuff out of your head. Right?
Probably allows you to focus more.
Yeah. When you're slacking off or resting and stuff, that's when to me, that's when my mind starts giving me self-doubts on whether or not I've actually worked hard enough, or whether I earned it, or whether I deserved it, you know, that kind of stuff. So, if anything you don't train for about 2 to 3 weeks will drop off about 10%. It's more or less. So taking this 3 weeks to not doing anything, the people who do that, and there are people who do that and are very successful, but they are so much crazy stronger than the rest of us that they can give up 10 or 15% and still be superstars. But they weren't going to win the Olympics that way. You know what I'm saying? Because those people who actually set quantifiable records, like in weightlifting and shit, don't do that. You know. Any other questions?
Are you down to something pretty consistent these last few years as far as your preparation? Just because, like, over the years I've like experimented with different things. As far as like, sometimes I'll go to a tournament and I'll feel like an absolute freak, and then other times I'll go to a tournament and I'll be like, whoa, what did I do differently that time around? Like, was my water cut bad, or like, have you noticed over the years where sometimes you feel mega strong compared to?
If it's weight cutting, now when I was cutting weight, that I had down to a science. But I'm going to tell you, cutting weight never got easier. Now I was going to cover cutting weight at the end, but I would cut about 10% of my body weight, which was always a stretch. So for me, it was always 20 pounds in 10 days. But mostly what it was in the first 9 days, I'd lose about 5 pounds or so, and then I always tried to hit 12 to 15 pounds in the sauna the night before. I wanted to maximize the weight cut prior to weigh-ins. So I didn't want to make weight any earlier than weigh-ins, get off the scale and start putting it back on. That actually got harder for me every year, but that I actually had written down. And to the point where when I was in the sauna, I was weighing myself every hour. So I knew, because every time you jump in that sauna, you come back, wow, I lost 7 pounds. Oh, fuck, I'm going to be done in 4 hours. Yeah, the last 12 hours, you don't lose shit. You know, it takes 12 hours to lose that last pound, you know? Because I'm almost convinced you come out of the sauna at the end when you're dry, you weigh yourself, you get back into the sauna, you're cold. I think I started soaking that steam back into my body, and then I had to get hot, get that headache, and lose it again. That was killer. Now that I don't have to cut weight anymore, the training is mostly, and the we gotta talk about the WAL anyways. Since the WAL went to super matches, my training and my preparation is completely different, because I will train and I will approach 6 rounds with one man completely different than I would have approached 6 rounds with 6 different people. Because whether it's a tournament or a super match, it's still about 6 matches to win. It's 6 matches to win if you go undefeated in a tournament. But in the WAL, you got to win 3, but you might have multiple restarts. But it's about the same amount of pulling. But a tournament, it's 6, maybe 7 matches over what seems like 8 or 9 hours. For crying out loud, they got a break in the middle of it, and it's just a tournament's completely different. A tournament, I would certainly emphasize table training versus weightlifting. But I've been arm wrestling for about 20 years now, so my preparation, as soon as I know who I'm going to arm wrestle, I build a YouTube channel of all their matches. I watch it while I'm training. I develop a game plan. I talk it over with 2 or 3 people that I trust. I will practice with those people once or twice. And I'm usually pretty confident in my preparation weeks before I go in there. You know, and that's kind of down to a science now. But I'm at the point where when you're a beginner, you're worried about all kinds of crazy shit. When you become an old guy, you don't ever want to lose, but you don't ever want to get crazy with it. So I'm still having fun. I'm not completely suicidal about shit anymore, you know. But I'm at the point now. I got a pretty good idea whether I'm going to win or lose weeks before that match happens. I go, I should be able to win this. I should be able to win this match 9 times out of 10, or yeah, I got 1 or 2 chances out of 10 to win this match. So I'm only going to train those 1 or 2 chances. You know?
I got a question.
Yes, he had his hand first, and it's his house and it's his seminar.
I actually got a question from Tom Nelson for you. He asked.
He loves me, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
His question is, how can you get that much stronger in a third match over the first match without getting pumped up? He always is 10 times stronger in the third match than the first. I would say no man could beat him if he was that strong in the first match as he is in the third.
Isometrics. Isometrics train that. We're going to talk about force, power, and work capacity later. But to be stronger, deeper into the matches, you got to have that work capacity. All right, and you got to, and too many of us train aerobically because we train like the bodybuilders do. Isometrics is maximum force, it's anaerobic, and it teaches your body to recover from that. So you gotta, especially you people have to cut weight, you want to train a lot of isometrics. It's a way to do maximum effort work without putting on a lot of mass. And then your body will condition. You know, too many of us, and we'll get into practice philosophies later, but we all go to practice and we grind and we grind and we grind and we grind, and then you go to a tournament. So you've been practicing for 6 months and you've been practicing these 20 and 30-second long matches. You go to a tournament, and how many 30-second matches do you have in a tournament? There's like 1 in the whole tournament, right? Nobody has 1, right? It's all flash, flash, flash. Isometrics, you can adjust your isometric time, whether it's a 2-second, 5-second, or 20-second isometric. Then you get used to it, you know. But you gotta, and we'll talk about whether you're practicing for capacity or just hanging out and having a good time, or whether you're actually specifically sparring and training for an actual match coming up. But the isometrics are definitely something that we all know about them. None of us do them, you know, because they're boring. They're boring as hell. But you gotta do them. But
You say you do extensive research on the guys that you're going to have matches with. Do you ever have a match where you don't have that information or that thing at your disposal that you have to go in kind of blind?
yes, and more often than not, I underestimate them. But if you never heard of the guy,
I've never been surprised by an unknown.
Oh, I got the first WAL tournament in Vegas. I had, I don't know what match it was, first or second match. Kid's name was Michael Bianchi. Never heard of him, but I knew he came out of South Carolina, so I knew he trained with good people. And I didn't have in my South Carolina people to ask about, but I go, I never heard of him. And had he been good, Matt or Chad or Corey would have told me about him, you know. And I go, what?
Damn.
First battle. I lose this guy. You know? But it happened that one time. It didn't happen, you know. I still ended up winning that tournament, but people like that will catch you. Even people you know will surprise you. Because, I mean, as hard as you're training, other people are training too. So I get surprised by people I know all the time. They just, and we'll cover it. Not only are you getting stronger, but you learn that small adjustments to your top roll or your hook can completely change the outcome of the match. So you have to you got to be on the lookout for that. And we're really not that far apart. You beginners, you feel, I'm going to tell you, you go to practice, you get beat up, you go to a tournament, you go out in 2 or you go out in 4, and you just think that you're so far away from other people. Small changes, small adjustments, all of a sudden these people feel mortal, and I'm telling you, there is not a lot of difference in the power between the super heavyweights and the middleweights. Because I pull both those classes repeatedly, and I pull very good people in both of those classes. And there are a lot of middleweights that can beat a lot of super heavyweights. It's more of a combat sport than it is a weightlifting sport, But it's differently, geometry and stuff weighs in on it.
I've had the guy Tom Simcoe Nitro just show you one move, and you grip him one way your way, and then you grip him with the one tweak, and increase your strength by 20% just with the one move and no exercise.
You gotta make sure they don't know it's coming. Anything else? Topics we gotta cover. Surely you guys got other questions. Questions? You got a question? Yes.
Hand grippers.
Yes.
How do you train with them?
I wouldn't. I have that whole set. I wouldn't use them at all. For the simple reason that, do you have them?
I did, yeah.
When you're arm wrestling, you almost always want your hand curled.
Right.
To max out those grippers, you're almost always strong with your hand pulled back. And in the end, you're not so, come on up here a second.
Okay.
When you're arm wrestling, right, that isn't what a good arm wrestler, what you'll feel from a good arm wrestler. What you'll feel from a good arm wrestler is his fingers flat like that,
Yeah.
Those grippers, to minimize that gripper, if you squeeze my hand like it's a gripper really, really hard, you just open yourself up to being top roll, right? What you need is what I believe, we're going to talk to terminology, I believe this is what they call by cupping, is this relaxed finger curling stuff.
That's how you cup?
I believe cupping is this. We got to talk about it.
Okay, we cut the same.
For the purposes of this talk, cupping is fingers fairly relaxed, pulling back. Rising is just this, pronating and supinating. Okay?
Yeah.
If those aren't the correct terms, you can Google them later and correct me later. But when I say cupping, this is what I mean. So if he's top rolling, I'm going to counteract his top roll by cupping. And cupping is just making my fingers basically into a hook and pulling back. Okay?
Back pressure.
I kind of like just popping your wrist.
Well, back pressure can be up like this, or can be, cupping is a hand thing. It's not an arm motion thing. So if he's top rolling out like Travis would, cupping is just me. Basically, these fingers are in a hook. Okay. Rising can either be with your knuckles down or up, but it's that. Pronating and supinating. And for the purposes of tonight, cupping is the most important thing you train, and then some kind of side pressure with your arm, and then rising. If you're an inside puller or a shorter person, if you're a taller guy or a top roller, then you train your rising, your side, and then your cupping in that order. All right.